Welcome to another Hoops and Dreams preview show. Here to help me review the last match, preview the Swansea fixture, and chat about a QPR topic or two. Once again is George. Welcome, mate.
Thank you, mate, as usual.
Yeah. So let's get on to the first things first. We have to look at Saturday's game, which was QPR against Millwall. This was another sky-driven 12:30 kickoff, and Millwall are a side that always seem to enjoy coming to Loftus Road. QPR's recent good run meant that the stadium was sold out. So it was a huge disappointment, I think, to lose so poorly. Well, that's what I thought anyway. What about you, George?
Yeah, you know what? I think it was a frustrating game because I feel like we started really well. For that first half hour of the game, we dominated the ball, we dominated chances. The game was already turning into a bit of a mess, bit of a scrap, but that's what you always expect against Millwall. And I said before the game, you can't do what Millwall do better than them. So we should try play our own football and try combine and pass it around them. And it seemed like we did that for the first half an hour. And then they score on the run of play. And I think it's a frustrating goal to concede. I think Cook should have done better. And my thought was if Mbenge was there, does that goal really go in with the pace? I'm not too sure. Good save from Nardi initially, but then not much he can do after that. And I thought, okay, 1-0 at half time. I know it's Millwall, but we can come back into the game. But then scoring in what was it, like the 49th minute, the fourth minute of added time? It's just frustrating, isn't it? And it's almost like it completely changes the team talk. And it seemed like Varane got a flick on, so that therefore Cook can win the header. But even so, I don't think the ball should be going through that easily. And then second half. Once again, we played all right. I don't think it was necessarily we had a bad game. It's just Millwall were trying to kill it off,
Yeah.
but as they always do. I think it really highlights the effect that Burrell and his pace has because when he came on, I think that we created much more chances and obviously he got the goal. But no, it's just a frustrating one because we were the better team there. Alex Neil, for them, even admitted that. But you
Yeah.
can't win every single game in the championship, and you've just got to look at the performance as a whole. And we dominated the ball. I feel like we're the better footballing team, but we were just unlucky on the day, really, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, in all the stats, when you look at them, apart from the two that most matter, we were ahead. The ones we weren't ahead on were shots on target and goals. It's as simple as that. I don't know about you, George, but I felt playing the two similar strikers up front in Frey and Coney was a mistake. I would have
Yeah, no, I
played one of
agree.
them coupled with Burrell or Coley to offer a wider threat. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think we saw it actually away at Bristol City. I know that we ended up coming back. Well, was it Bristol City or it might have been Sheffield Wednesday? I don't know. But Frank and Kone played together up front, and it didn't seem like we had as much as of a threat because Kone playing in that the slightly deeper role, he wins the flicks and holds up the play for Burrell to run in behind. And I agree. I probably would have started Collie. I think it would have been harsh to start Burrell after travelling with Jamaica.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but I would have started Collie because not the fact that they're similar strikers, because I think Kone's obviously better and Frey's okay at what he does. I just think it's almost a bit stale up front. And it's almost like what we experienced a bit last year. Because I said it last time I came on with Marty's teams, we had no pace and it almost seemed like we were creating chances but getting nowhere. Whereas with that pace in the team, it leads to the Mill defence dropping that extra 10, 15 yards deeper, which gives us that extra bit of space to play football. Whereas yesterday, I feel like with Cooper and Crammer at the back, we just didn't have that.
no, they were pretty solid all the way through, and yet we still persisted in trying to bring balls in at head height. I was at a loss on that. I mean, at the first 20 minutes, I thought we were really promising. It really looked good, and Smith had a good few chances. Um, I felt that their CBs must have been really delighted at the way that we approached the game, and they contained the slower fray and an off pace to me it seemed anyway, Coney, as well as often lots of poor crosses and dead ball plays. It just was generally a poor performance, I think, by us, even though we seemed to at times play well. Varane, for whatever reason, I felt too was below par. And the defenders were definitely caught flat-footed for that first goal. Yeah, I mean, what can we say about that? other than the fact that I think both of them were watching the ball and neither was watching the player rushing through. The second one, I mean, that's God. What can we say about that? I mean, I was there, George. I presume you were there as well, and everybody who was standing around me all looked in amazement when the goal went well when he scored. Ivanovic seemed to come from nowhere. Everybody seemed to stand still like statues, and he just was the one who put his head in, and that was it. It was the most weird thing I've ever seen, to be honest. Okay, let's move on and try to be a bit more positive. Did anyone impress you, George?
I think I don't know. As I said, it was a all right team performance for me, but there was no one who was on their best form. I think that you're looking at some players who perhaps didn't perform to their high standards. I think Vale's delivery wasn't as great yesterday. That might have been because they had two 6'5" man mountains in the box who just
Yeah,
headed everything away. But I feel like he wasn't great. And you mentioned him Varane for that first. I know I said we played well in that first half an hour, but he just I can't remember a pass that he completed.
no,
Um,
me.
so frustrating. But in terms of good performances, I feel like Smith did well in the first half. They were hacking at him everywhere, and I feel like he was our most attacking threat. I feel Dembele did well when he came on. He looked sharper than he has done the last few games. Norrington Davis again, I feel another solid performance. But apart from Madsen again, all right. But apart from that, I can't really pick someone out and say they had an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 performance. So I guess that's really where it went wrong.
Nobody had an 8 out of 10, I don't think. Um, Madsen has been sort of picked upon a fair bit, and even to the reports I've seen, people have been criticising his play, but I actually thought he played quite well, particularly in the opening spell. And when you're partnering somebody who's obviously having a bad hair day in Varane, I think a lot of pressure comes on you then in the middle. There's only two of you there, and you're doing your best to sort of cope with what they may or may not be doing well. So I don't criticise Madsen for yesterday. I thought he did okay. Um, but I think really the physicality that we wanted was there, uh, but it was a case of failing to beat the press, a failure to gather second balls, and a failure to exploit those opportunities in attack. Where there was an opportunity to do something simple, like perhaps even just shoot. No, instead we're stepping over the ball or flicking it on. We're just missing opportunities here. Perhaps we're just trying to be too clever these days. I don't know. But I agree with you about the subs when they came on. Saito, Magengi, I'm going to get his name right one day. Dembele, Morgan, Burrell, all of them when they came on made a difference. And I guess that then I've got to ask you then, do you think they should have come on before, or do you think they perhaps should have even have started?
I think starting some of them was a bit harsh, especially those who had been away on international duty with Saito and Burrell. Obviously, a bit of jet lag, they had only had one session before the game. I agree with not starting them, but as I said at the start, I feel like I would have started Collie just for that little bit of pace
Yeah,
alongside
and me.
um, Kone up front. But apart from that, I didn't really complain at the team selection. I feel like Vale and Smith, when they came on away at Bristol City, they did quite well. The only other one I maybe would have done is putting Bengay in over Cook, but once again, away at Bristol, Cook did all right. And if you're going with the mentality of if you play well, you keep your shirt, then he had to stay in the team. But I feel like I would have put in Bengay in just for that little bit of pace. But I get what Stefan was trying to do. He was trying to out physical a team who just live and die by out battling a team. But I just feel like it didn't work, and the way to go was exploiting the pace we have and playing around that, especially against a team like Millwall, who I don't think we've beaten at home for a while. And I thought it was going to be a draw, to be honest with you. I predicted 1-0. But just, yeah, wasn't meant to be.
No, the only other one I would have, as soon as I realised that Varane was having a bad hair day, I think I would have pulled him off and put Field on instead, and then put Madsen further up. I think that would have perhaps helped. But there we go. It is what it is, and I think we've all criticised at times the managers for the substitutions being either too late or not correct. It's a thankless task doing that. Okay, that result anyway leaves QPR in ninth place, still on 15 points, of course. We head into the midweek away game at Swansea on Wednesday evening. They are sitting mid-table with a mixed bag of results, culminating in a goalless draw away at Southampton. Pretty impressive. As they're at home, do you see this as a tricky one to predict, George?
Yeah, I don't think it's an easy game. It's going to be a completely different challenge because they like to keep the ball. I think they're in the top five in the league for average possession per game. So, but that's how kind of Swansea have been the last few seasons. They kind of sit around mid-table, but they have a style of play where they keep the ball. Um, I think it was last season I went there and we lost 3-0 and it was Boxing Day and I was so ill and for some reason I dragged myself there and we have an awful record on Boxing Day, so I'm just hoping that it's a better game than that. But no, it's definitely not an easy challenge. I don't see them challenging for a top six space come the end of the season. But then again, I don't see them being in a relegation battle. They are players who I've never heard of. To be honest with you, I'm looking at their team now, and they've got Stamicic in midfield and Nusa up front. Like these are players who I've never heard of. But then their back line, it seems that Josh Tymon, Ben Cabango, Josh Key, they're all players who have played a good amount of games in the championship, so they've got that mix of championship experience and new players. So it'll be interesting. I don't know too much about them as a side, but yeah, it seems like it's obviously going to be a tough game. It's away. It's a Wednesday night. It's not going to be easy, but I feel like if we get the squad right, if we rotate correctly after Saturday, I don't see why we can't win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you about them dominating possession. That's what they'll want to do, and maybe QPR will let them do it anyway, and then just go for the breaks. But they lost 1-0 away to Borough, which is pretty impressive. And as I said on Saturday, it was a goalless draw against Southampton. Those are two good scores for them, I feel.
Mm.
They don't seem to have a prolific goal scorer, and they're not a side really that's prone to fouls or penalties. So perhaps we should be looking at this as an opportunity, George. Their style of play probably will suit us better than Millwall's.
No, 100%. To be honest with you, I think I prefer teams who come at us a little bit
Yeah,
rather than sit in, because it gives us that little bit of space, and they'll be confident. I'm looking at their results now, and they haven't been battered by anyone. All their games have been really close. They've been 1-1 draws, 1-0s, 2-0s. There's no 3 or 4 nils in there, so no side have been able to fully break them down. So I can see them being hard to beat, but then again, I can see them being quite expressive in what they do. They'll look to create patterns. They'll look to keep the ball potentially just passing it around the back. So it's a tough one to call, really. It really is.
yeah. They're sitting mid-table, as I said. Is that where you expect to see him at the end of the season?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like, as I said, I don't see them being a relegation threat, but I don't think their squad's good enough to push for a playoff spot, to be honest with you. And their manager, Alan Sheehan, he did well last year. I know that they went for it was actually when we played, it might have been when we played them. I'm not too sure, but they went for a good spell. They won like 5 or 6 on the trot, I remember seeing. But they're a team who are often mid-table, a bit like us, really. They go through spells. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's that consistency that pushes you up and keeps you up in the top six. Neither of us have got that yet. Um, phew. Okay, so let's focus upon QPR now. After Saturday's match, do you foresee any changes on Wednesday in defence, George?
Yeah, I can see him changing it a little bit. I can see him putting Mbenge in.
Yeah,
I know Morrison went down. I think it was an injury, but I don't feel like it was that severe. So I feel like he might go Morrison and Mbenge at the back. If not, obviously it'll
yeah,
be Hook
and
and
me.
Mbenge. Dunn will obviously start, and I don't see why he dropped Norrington Davis, to be honest with you. So defensive wise, I definitely look to put Mbenge back in because I feel like he's been superb for us this season.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. He does ride his luck a bit, but I do love his speed and I do love his inventiveness. Okay, how about in the middle? Vran perhaps replaced?
Yeah, see, this is one where I go a little bit different. I feel like you'd have to put one of Field or Hayden in there, just for that little bit of rotation and just for that little bit of security in midfield. I feel like I go for Field, and I don't think Madsen deserves getting dropped. but I could see him doing it. I could see him doing what he did at Oxford at home, playing Field and Hayden in midfield just to rotate it. But if it was my choice, I'd go Field and Madsen.
Yeah, Hayden's a good call, I think, and yeah, even Morgan, to be honest with you, at the moment, give Rand a chance to recoup and get back in it. That leaves up front, George. Who do you see starting against Swansea?
So it's tough at the moment, isn't it? Because we have so many attacking options. So it's interesting. But I can see him going back to type a little bit. I feel like he'll start Kone, obviously. I think he'll put Burrell back in the team just for that little bit of pace.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I feel like Smith's done enough to deserve his spot in the team on Wednesday. So I feel like I go for him, and then I put Saito back in as well. So that's what I can see him doing. It depends really if Chair and Poku are back and fit enough to be on the bench, because then I think that kind of leads to a little bit of squad rotation. Because then you think who gets dropped from the bench? Because you even look at it on Saturday, the bench seemed really strong. So it'll be interesting to see who he takes out, but.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good
that's
point.
fine.
I don't know if Julian Stefan's what he's learnt really from the defeat against Millwall. I do hope though that the experiment of Coney and Frey together has been recognised as not working and has been put aside. I want to see Coney and Burrell start, to be quite honest, up front, with Frey coming on later as sort of the big disruptor or something. On the wings, yeah, I think we've got to look at Saito and Smith. I would have thought. My biggest concern is the lack of creativity going through the middle. That's where you'd expect to see Chair shining, and he would be my choice, but he wasn't even on the bench, so that tells us a lot. But failing him, could it be Dembele or even Saito or Vale? Perhaps they could fit in somehow. I mean,
Mm.
this is something he's going to have to look at against a Swansea side that really are quite tight, as we said, with possession. We've got to win the ball back and keep it. Okay, let's move on to some club news. I'm going to start with news that 10 games into the season, the names of the new season ticket holders in Block E, Row X are still missing. Can you get on it, QPR, please? Uh, we've had Saito, Coney, Coley, Smith, and Dunn away on the from first team duties with their international sides. George, do you think that whilst this gives a higher profile for our players as they are showcased, the tiring travel does impact the players and thus our squad?
Yeah, I think it does, especially when you have three of them, Saito, Burrell, and Hayden going long journeys.
Mm.
Um, but I feel like it's not just the players going out on international duty. I don't think that's the issue. I feel like international breaks always just seem to hit us at the wrong times,
Yeah,
just as we're starting to gather a bit of momentum. But in terms of for a player, it's good for that bit of exposure. And I know the players. Have a high. I know the Nuri has such a thing of resale value, and especially with Saito going and making a cap for Japan, that's a big one. So I feel like it's good for the players, but not necessarily good for us because it always seems to hit us when we're just at that little bit of momentum, and then we always lose or draw after, and it kind of kills us. So it's frustrating.
yeah, I totally agree. And it may well add value at the end of the day to them if we ever sell them. But yeah, in between, we're just going to have to accept that we've got lots of players who are away and it does impact the side. Okay, we now have only Joe Walsh and Ziad Lukache on the injury list. That's a remarkable thing for QPR these days. But we must assume that the missing quartet of Poku, Chair, JCS, and I mean, it was RND, but he's now back. So sorry, it's just the three of them. They will finally appear on a subs bench near us. I'm hoping they'll be there for Swansea. How hard do you think it will be for them to make it into the starting 11, George?
I think it will be tough for different ways. Clark's sorted because it's more of a mental battle for him. I think.
Mm,
Obviously, he came off in that development squad game. Lucky enough, that wasn't anything too bad. But you always worry that he's going to go down injured, and then he'll only play what 5, 10 games in a season. So that's my worry for him.
yeah,
And Sharon Poku, it's because we've got so many attacking options now who seem to be performing. And with the way that we play at the moment, I'm not sure if Stefan will be willing to adapt to put Chair in the 10 because that Kone and Burrell partnership, especially when the squad are fully fit, it seems good because it gives you that little bit of balance of pace and prolific in front of goal. So I don't see him changing that and putting Chair in the 10, which therefore means he has to go out wide. And I
Mm.
don't see him going on the right. And he's not, I don't think he's better on the wing than Saito, to be honest with you, at what he does. I don't think Chair's necessarily always been that player to beat someone. He's got that moment of magic in him. He's got that cutting on his right foot and whip it top corner. But I'm not necessarily sure that's what Stefan's looking for now. He's looking for that little bit of creativity and then that pace through the middle. Poku's an interesting one because I feel like throughout pre-season he didn't really show us too much. Um, but obviously he's got talent, he's got the quality. We saw it with him in League One last season, so I'm really excited to see him come back in. But then again, it's just a point of who gets dropped. So it's a really good problem to have. I'm not complaining about it at all because in past seasons we've almost been able to select the 11 without even having to think about it. Um, but now we're having problems selecting a bench as well. So I think it's really good to see. But one thing I will mention is that this is QPR, and there is no way that we're going to keep it with just Walsh and Larkash as our two injured players. That injury list will grow and grow as the season goes on because it's just typical us. So it's good to have that squad depth, and I'm really happy about it.
Yeah, I totally agree about Chair on the wing, and the same you could say equally the same about Dembele being over there because they're the type of players who like to cut in and then move their way towards the centre before shooting. The longer they take to move in, the easier it is for a defender to cut in and stop them. So the thing is, have them in the centre to begin with. Don't try and use them on the wings. So yeah, that would be what I would say to him if Julian was listening now. That's what I'd be saying. Um, with with regard to the way we progress from this, Poku, I do feel has got a bit of a problem. I think there is definitely a skillful player there. It may well be he's going to have to rely on injury to either Smith or to Saito. I think maybe that's the way we're going to have to go. And God, I can't wait for Clark Salter to come back, be fully match fit, and add to that because, like you, I agree. I think very soon we're going to be in a situation where one of the CBs is going to be injured at least, and we're going to be struggling again. It's just that one of those positions, isn't it, where you end up with an awful lot of people out. So anyway, there we go. Um, and I agree with you, though. It's great that we've got so many players back and available to play. So it's that time in the podcast, George, where I have to ask you to predict the result of the midweek match. Do you see the R's still being stuck in disorder, or do you see them doing a bounce back? What do you reckon?
I can see a bounce back, and I know I've spoken about how Swansea it's going to be a tough test, and there's no denying that. I think it will be. As I said, it'll be a different sort of game to Millwall. In that Millwall game, I never thought there was going to be many goals, but for some reason, I've got a feeling that there will be in this game. It's two quite free-flowing sides, so I think we'll win the game. But I'm gonna go for 3-1. I think we're gonna win 3-1. I think it'll be a tough game, but we'll end up going 2-1 up and then score one late. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, I'm gonna be positive on this one because although my head says a 1-1 draw, my heart says a 1-0 away win for the R's. I think we'll just sneak it through. Anyway, so that's it for this preview show. Other than to thank you, George, as usual, for being here, and all of you for watching. Dave and James will be here for the next preview show, which is Derby against QPR on the 25th. George and I will be back for the next midweek preview, which is QPR playing Southampton on Bonfire Night. So up until then, come on, you R's.
And then you ask.